District. So, Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Yes, I will. Paul Garza.
Present?
Lynn Finley.
Present.
Paul Katzeff.
Present.
Jan McGordy.
Present.
And Susan Savage here, all present.
You know, on the basis of our meeting that of board members that we had a work session with 2-3 weeks ago, we've come to some agreements of the board on how we're going to now handle our meetings with respect to public comment on other issues. So of course the board does. I'm sorry. I need to be. Yes, you're right. I need to be speaking to them. Thank you. You're right. Forgot. Okay. We need to. The board will welcomes public comments for items on the agenda. Not on the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. We have allocated a total of 20 minutes for this portion, and each person who wishes to speak to us is limited to a maximum amount of 5 minutes. Prior it was 4, but we've been a little bit more liberal. In adopting that, though, we hope that those of you who choose to speak at the beginning will be respectful in your remarks and considerate of others who may wish to speak. The board may decide to modify that, both in terms of the length, the total length we have allocated, and the amount of speaking in the future if there's if there's pressing business and a very large number of people who wish to address the board. But at least we're going forward with that at this point. After reports, and we will have several this evening, the board will hear the reports from various agencies that are information only. Public comment will be welcomed at the end of the reports. Again, there's a 20-minute total time limit for this portion of the agenda, and each presenter is allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Okay? So those of you, my advice would be for those of you who get to be my age, let me just put it that way, is if you have a question, write it down for yourself or taking notes, and so that you'll be able to ask at that point. Now, there are 6 items of new business on today's agenda. Public comments will be heard on each one. The board policy is actually, I believe we adopted 10 minutes for that. Maximum amount of time, and each presenter is allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Now, again, we ask you to be respectful with your remarks and considerate of others who may wish to speak. If there are extraordinary interest in an item, the board has the opportunity at any time to extend that, and we intend to. Consent calendar. Public comments may be heard prior to the board's vote on a consent calendar after board members have had the opportunity to remove an item. The board policies that we've talked about continue. Last is closed session. Public comments may be offered on items listed for the closed session prior to visitors being excused from the room while the board goes into closed session. There are no further opportunities for public comment when the board returns. And at that point, if something has been acted upon, we'll report it. If it remains just a discussion item, then there will be no report out. So I hope that's clear, and our intent is to do everything we can to enable public participation. We value it very highly. It's a critical part of our responsibility in terms of our job as board members, to hear you and to take into consideration your concerns, your questions, your points of view. And in the past, they have already helped us, guiding us on decisions, and we look forward to your continued guidance. Obviously, we're here for you, all of you as taxpayers. Okay. So with that, we're now open for the first public comment on items not on the agenda. If anybody wishes to be recognized, please let me know. Yes, please. Yes, please, if you come to the podium, I appreciate it.
Hello, hello. Is it on?
It is on, yes.
Okay, good. Okay. My name is Bruce Broderick, and
First, let me start by saying that I'm not even sure that this is the right venue. But I was talking to Paul earlier today, and he said to bring it here, and let's see if it is.
All right.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay. This has to do with seniors with limited means in Mendocino County, especially here on the coast. And there's been, I have coffee with a number of seniors in the morning in town, and it seems there are some that have been subjected to, by the County of Mendocino Building and Planning, certain code violations, permit violations, and things of that nature that on the surface it just seems like it's a regulatory thing, but it creates undue stress, undue panic, fear, and mostly fear of losing where they live. And this is going on more and more, and the county has typically done this on complaint-driven items, but more and more I feel that there are other entities involved in this type of thing, such as real estate, corporate interests, people who would rather get a good deal on a piece of property and get the seniors out of said properties. There is no local advocacy for this type of thing where a senior, if they get, XYZ code violation for whether it be a structure that they're living in, whether they've done this violation or that violation, there's nowhere for them to go. And I know people who have spent their entire life savings, as much as $20,000 or so, to try and get out of this mess that they get in through no fault of their own, because they've been living on that property probably since the 70s or 80s. And what I'm looking to see is if there is a way that an advocacy program can be initiated to go with, or at the same time, an inspector is there to help the senior through the process and maybe get a lot of what's going on out of the way so that the senior can continue to live out their lives. It's like I say, it's been typically complaint driven, but now the county has a new satellite observation subscription to where, and I've seen at least one person who I communicate with that has gotten a letter from the county where they've observed from satellite that there's changes to their property. And so the violations start that way. And my only concern here is to see if there's something that can be done, whether it's from this organization here or another organization, to where we can create some kind of advocacy to be able to help people that are going through this. That's what I got.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board at this point? Okay, that I'm not seeing.
Oh, we do not have any hands raised online, but someone just entered the room, so if it's okay, Chair. Oh, we do. We have George Reinhardt. And I do want to let everyone know that if you wish to speak right now during the public comment, those who are online, please raise your hand and then you will be recognized when the next person comes through. So right now, George Reinhardt, if you unmute yourself, your 5-minute timer will start.
And do you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great. So this is a kind of wonderful coincidence because I know Bruce and the great work he's doing and his sense of compassion for our community. So my intention was to just raise an issue that I understand unequivocally you are aware of this problem, which was, Bruce got me sidetracked a little bit because it's such an important issue, the one he's talking about. I was going to bring up housing in general. And what I was really wanting the board to think about is ways in which the hospital can creatively and productively and in a positive way. And I really think, in terms of this conversation about blue zones, really think on a community-wide, in a community-wide fashion about how housing is impacting our community. So clearly, you all know that it's making it difficult for us to get talented people here on the coast. It is creating a real crisis, one piece of which Bruce spoke to, the number of people who are being kicked out of homes, or in other cases, rentals which are being gobbled up and they become part of the Airbnb nightmare. And so what I'm really wanting the Healthcare District Board to think about is the way you folks and our community working together can figure out what piece of the housing problem we can do something about. And I think that I'm not only saying this, I say this at city council meetings. I say this when I talk to the police chief. This is something that, education, law enforcement, healthcare, we're all, and I say we, genuinely, we're all suffering because we have not figured out this question of housing and how it fits into the health care and the well-being of our community. So I know you all are aware of this, but I want you to know that many of us in the community see that the Healthcare District Board could play a very positive and constructive role here. And I hope you will give that some serious consideration. And thank you very much for the opportunity for public comment. And I like the way you've laid out a bunch of different opportunities through the meeting to do that, because it is a frustration sometimes with some organizations where you get one chance to speak and that's it. And so thank you for having this broader and more inclusive approach to public comment. Thank you very much. And thank you for all the hard work you're doing.
Anybody else online at this point? No? Okay, seeing no hands on, let's move on now to reports. The first report is mine. For those of you who may have attended or followed what we did at our last board meeting, the report that you see is pretty much the same thing. But I wanted to go over it once again because I think it's critical that we understand as well as possible our financial situation going forward, and because that will drive the decisions that we're able to make. We all know that the hospital needs to be a seismic retrofit. That's a minimum requirement that the state has imposed upon us. But at least it seems to me, as we go forward, we want to do as much as we can to make this hospital viable in the future. And I'm hoping that we can do a good deal more than just merely a seismic retrofit. So, as we make decisions about what we will be doing in the physical plan of our hospital in the future, our finances are clearly going to tell us what we can do. In order to make that decision, a number of things that we need. First of all, we need Adventist Health to define their workplace model for our hospital. Okay, and Adventist has gone through a number of changes, and so at this point we don't have a clear sense from them, but I am told that they intend to provide that to us, and we're really looking forward to it. Second thing that we're working on but haven't quite been able to put together yet is analyzing the current pattern of healthcare services and reimbursement in our district. And here we're not just looking at what the hospital has done. We're looking in the entire district to see where people are, what services they're receiving, and get a sense of where they're going to receive those services. Okay? Then we need to identify and aggressively pursue potential grant resources. I've listed some here. The first is the the Hospital Construction Agency of the state, who already has helped us a great deal. We have opportunities with the United States Economic Development Administration, the United States Rural Development Agency. We believe, and we'll learn more about this tonight, an opportunity with the intergovernment transfer, which is a little bit of an interesting mechanism that will, when we get to discussion, we can talk a little bit about. Private philanthropy, I'm informed by Director Savage that she has, people have identified potentially other sources of grant funding that we may pursue, but that's going to be very important to us. Our goal here with those grants is to reduce the cost to our taxpayers here and to use taxpayers' dollars that they've already sent to Washington and the state of California and other places, and to maximize it. So to take whatever money we're paying, we've collected locally, and maximize it with that money and get some return from your investment. How's that sound? And lastly, we want to engage our community in planning a more capable facility. That's going to take the input of private citizens. I've got a commitment from Dr. Sirhan at the hospital to become very much involved in talking to the departments and trying to figure out what's the most efficient flow within the hospital. So there's some things that we can do that would be very positive, will make it better for all of us, including the staff. So we're looking forward to that. Good. We face a very significant challenge in effectively utilizing these financial resources that are available to us, and there are limits to them, and we have to be aware of those limits. Well, the current balance in our accounts has given some people the sense that we're kind of flush at this point. Let's understand, first of all, that a number of things are going on. First, Becker's, and for those of you who are really interested in being a healthcare nerd, is a great source to subscribe to, and it's free, is reporting that hospital construction costs over the last several years have gone up an average of 10% a year. So every year, that means we have 10% less money. That's the key. Many economists are predicting an annual inflation rate to remain as high as 3%. That is conservative to other economists who were predicting 5, 8, even 10% in this upcoming year. We'll see. The more standard economists are saying 3%, but there are always these interesting. In any case, we're going to be plagued with inflation. That also reduces the amount of money that we have available. Okay. And if the Trump administration imposes tariffs, we could see a much more difficult situation here. But we'll see how that works out. I'm not a professional economist, so I'm only reading other people. It appears, based upon what you've all heard and what is available in print and in media, that Medicare reimbursements may be a target of the Trump administration. They believe that they have some ways of controlling the federal commitment to health care, and that seems to be the likely one. It's important to understand that our hospital gets about 50% of its reimbursement from Medi-Cal and Medicare. So that could be very hurtful to our future financial situation. We're among 703 rural hospitals in this country that are very stressed. We're actually in a much better financial situation than many of them, but so this is a situation that many of us are facing. We'll have to see. So we get $2.6 million a year in taxes. That's what this comes to the healthcare district for us to use for your best benefit. 1.55 of this comes from Measure C, okay, which will expire in 2030, and $1.05 million comes from the base parcel tax that was enacted. Ms. Wiley, that was 1967, if I'm correct?
When the district was, yes.
Yep. Okay.
1967, the district was formed.
Yep. So it goes all the way back to there. Now, these amounts have been relatively constant over the last few years. They could grow somewhat because the county of Mendocino is now in the process of improving the tax assessment and collection policies, but I don't think we're going to get a big bump there. So the 5-year projection for our lease income from that would be paid by Adventist Health is 13.9 million, effectively $14 million. The 5-year budget projection for investment earnings, if they can continue as effectively as they are now under the guidance and oversight of Wayne Allen, who's our CFO, we could earn another $3 million that we have disposed for. So the district will have available to it from all of its current funds and all of these sources, obviously not the grant sources because we don't know what that will be, but $43.2 million in total cash through 2029. However, now let's take a look at the expenses side. Our number one major expense is hospital repairs, maintenance, and purchase of equipment. And that is our primary responsibility as a board. So this is very important. Our 5-year capital expenditure budget projects a total cash outlay of $11.7 million. Adventist is currently projecting nearly $20 million in maintenance costs between now and 2029. That represents $4 million annually and does not include emergency maintenance. So a vital piece of equipment breaks down, something has to happen immediately, can't be delayed, and that's not part of the maintenance. And we'll learn a little bit more about the plan that Adventist has. Mr. Johnston is here tonight, and he will take us through it. Okay. There are other significant expenses or payments made to repay debt borrowing. The debt was, I believe, 2018. It was incurred at that point as a short-term effort to keep the hospital floating. Over the next 5 years, we will pay back on debt service $3.4 million. Now, an important question, and Director McGordy asked us at our last meeting, is that would we be better off paying that off now, or just continuing to make payments? It turns out that that money invested earns a higher amount of interest than the loan. So we're actually making money on that money. So it's probably wise that we continue to keep that current relationship. Our district's budget for administrative operations for the 5-year projection is about $2 million. That probably is conservative, but we'll see. So we need to be as efficient as possible in controlling costs while acquiring the expertise we need to guide us. So this net revenue comes down to 5-year projection of 43.2 minus expenses that we know about leaves about $26 million as of June 30th, 2029. Okay. Models that we have looked at, and just as exploration, no policy here, vary anywhere from a $17.5 million for a minimal seismic retrofit, all the way up to somewhere in the low 40s for a new facility. Okay. There is also a couple of models that have been suggested that we might want to go forward with that are blends of seismic retrofit and modernization. And the costs, again, are somewhere in that range. They're typically somewhere between 30 to 35 million for those. So we've got some processes to go through and some important decisions to make. So looking at this, it's pretty apparent that careful financial planning will be required, as well as aggressive attraction of additional resources, something that we're going to need to do. This is almost certainly going to mean that we're going to have to ask you, taxpayers, to approve additional tax assessments. And that's going to be tough because I know people already are tax weary. I hear that. I experience it myself. I know that if inflation gets going again, that makes it harder for people so there's some reasonable concerns that are out there. And equally, I think pressing is, because of all of this, it's imperative, I believe, that we begin construction on this retrofit modernization as soon as possible. We don't want to put it off for a couple more years and see an additional 10% go away. So the sooner we can hit the ground, the better. On top of that, let's remember that every hospital, or at least most hospitals in the state of California, are going to be required to do seismic retrofit. that's going to mean there aren't going to be enough construction people who are certified to do this work. So if we wait longer, they're going to, the price of using them is going to go way up. We're also in an area that isn't, it isn't obviously in an urban area where you have a lot of choices. So we have some limitations, and some of the firms, the work, who need to do the work may have to come in. So that's an additional expense too. So we could see some, we have a tough row to hoe. I guess that's the best way to put it. I think that's fair. Okay. So in my report, if you look at it, we've also projected some potential timeline if we to explore the bond and when we need to make a decision and when we're going to go. And so please, if you have further interest, please take a look at this. I know that we're going to get some additional reports on this, some additional ideas from this in Ms. Wiley's report this evening as well. So if that's, I believe, all I have. Is there anything else I've missed, Ms. Wiley?
I think so.
Okay. And so if we can now move on to the Venice Coast, I believe Jeff Mock is online tonight to give us a brief report. And of course, the key thing that Venice has undergone is a change of leadership. Is Mr. Mock there?
So my apologies. Jeff is not on tonight. He will be on a little bit later. So Jeff was going to present the financial report for last year, and that's not quite completed yet. We've been emailing back and forth with Kathy and Wayne to explain that we'll present that report in February.
Okay.
So if you could please look forward to Jeff's report on the finances in February.
All right. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, and now the Redwood Coast Seniors, is Ms. Rexroad here? Great, thank you.
I'm Jill Rexroad. I'm the Executive Director of the Redwood Coast Senior Center. I've been there since 2018. I just wanted to kind of introduce myself and kind of give you guys some information about what we do, because I think that a lot of people aren't aware of what we do. So the two main things that we do for the community is we provide really good food, and it's by donation only. We can't charge for the food because we do contract with the Area Agency on Aging. They serve Lake and Mendocino County, and they help pay for part of our food program, but we also rely on donations, but we can't charge people. So if you're 60 or over, you're welcome to come and have a lunch, and the suggested donation is only $5. If you're under 60, then it's a whopping charge of $10. You probably could pay that much for a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So with that, you get a 4-course meal and really beautiful desserts, and the meals are wonderful. So just for an example, on Monday, we had 122 people in our dining room.
Wow.
For chili relleno casserole, and everybody raved about it. And so that day we had donations totaling $522, which was an average of $4.28 per person. So basically, out of all the 122 people, only 17 people didn't donate. So that's really great, and we really, really need that. So with our food contract, we do have a limit to that. And once we exceed the limit, because we're feeding a phenomenal amount of people, we're putting out over 4,300 meals per month, which includes our grab and go on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we have our Meals on Wheels program, which is for the homebound seniors. So once we exceed our contract amount, we have no money to continue to feed our seniors. So I'm looking for some community support and some involvement from the district to possibly help us with our food program. We have about a $50,000 shortfall that I send out an appeal letter every year, and I hope for donations toward that program, but it's never something that I can count on. And then just yesterday, I received information from the county that we have a contract with them that's a $39,000 contract for information and outreach services. So they're going to discontinue that contract because of their budget cuts. Does that mean that I'm going to lay off somebody and we're not going to help seniors do their HEAP program, their CalFresh applications, and help them fill out paperwork for rentals and all of the things that we do? No, I'm not going to lay somebody off. We're going to try to figure out how to meet that shortfall and continue to provide services to the seniors. So in addition to that, we provide really affordable transportation. Our buses run from Gibney Lane to Cleone. In between the bridges, it's only $1. So if you live in town and you want to go to the post office, it's $1. If you call MTA for a dial-a-ride, it's much higher. We also do door-through-door services. So if a senior needs to go to Safeway and shop for groceries, we can help you carry the groceries into your house if you're, partially disabled and whatever your needs are. So, also too, I was able to have a conversation with Kathy and Paul recently, and we were talking about the needs of seniors and the future needs of seniors. There are a lot of homebound seniors that are depressed and isolated. We offer the Friendly Visitor Program and Senior Peer Counseling. And it's a really great program where people are specifically trained by a licensed clinician to go in and help people that are more depressed than usual. And they go in and visit with them on a regular basis, and it's very helpful. It's a suicide prevention program. We also have the Friendly Visitor Program, which is a little bit more relaxed. They still go through a background check and training, but they go in and they visit. They can go on outings to the botanical gardens or go to McDonald's or do something fun to get that person out of the house. So those are available. We have the Alzheimer's Day program, which is open Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. until 2. That's a great program. It offers respite time for the caregivers, and that's by donation also, because it is partially subsidized by the Area Agency on Aging. So we can't charge for that. We can only do a suggested donation based on the participation of the individual. So those, we also have our wonderful garden. I don't know if any of you in the community have driven by the senior center lately, but we've done a lot of improvements to the facility. The facility is actually 100 years old, and it's owned by the Fort Bragg Unified School District. It was not earthquake compliant for a school, so we were able to rent the facility for $1 a year. We have a 99-year lease, which we are about halfway through, and we are 100% responsible for the maintenance on the building. So when I came on board, I had a bucket. I showed Paul and Kathy my hole in the ceiling where I had a bucket on the floor catching the rainwater. So the first order of business was to put a new roof on the building. And, the wind and the rain were blowing through the old original windows that had rotted holes. It was quite a sight. Leaky plumbing, I could go on and on. So due to people thinking about us in their estate planning, we were able to do some really good maintenance and repairs to the building, so I feel confident it's going to last a good long time. We've put probably about $350,000 into maintenance and repairs, new windows, new roof, plumbing, heaters, etc. Paint. And we have 21 employees. 3 are full-time, and the FTE is equivalent to 5. And we have around 75 volunteers. So without our volunteers, because of our small budget, we cannot run the facility. So I brought volunteer applications. If any of you are interested in becoming a volunteer at the Senior Center, we have a lot of great volunteer opportunities. We have our kitchen garden, which is on 1/5 of an acre right in front of the building, and we actually grow vegetables and feed fresh ones into our kitchen.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so it's really great. We have a lot of great volunteers in the garden, but I'm really looking for someone to lead the garden, someone who maybe has a master garden certification or something to that sort. And so if any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for the board?
I don't have a question. I just want to say that I was totally stunned by the beauty of the facility. I was there 3 years ago. It was the last time I was there. I don't think I'm old enough yet. And what you've done is really pretty. I mean, it's really nice. It's a beautiful, it feels really great there.
Thank you.
And you'll see more of it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. The community, during COVID, when we had to shut down the facility to the public, as everybody else did, I went crazy and just cleaned the inside, painted it, and redecorated it. And as I was telling Kathy and Paul, I know how to stretch a dime. And so I did it on a really tight budget, and it looks really cute and homey, and people love it when they come in. So they feel really warm and welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, for the board. Okay, no, thank you, and we really appreciate the opportunity to hear about what you're doing. And it's great work, and I am impressed with how much you're doing. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, now we have a report from Robin Garrity, Props and Measures. And this is on the theme of communications. Ms. Garrity?
Thank you, Chair Garza. Kathy, are you going to share my doc, or do I share my doc? How would you like to do that?
I'm happy to. Hold on just one sec.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me again. Props and Measures staff is excited to continue collaborating with the Mendocino Coast Healthcare District on communication outreach and planning process for updating your hospital facilities. With the new leadership on the district board, changes in leadership with Adventist Health, it is even more important, right, to strive for clear communication with the community. I meet weekly with your administrator, with Kathy, and we talk about different ways that the board can engage with the community, and have outlined some mechanisms to increase engagement that sort of go hand in hand with your new processes for running your meetings. I think that you'll find these to be helpful. The goal here is to do emails and follow-up press releases following monthly board meetings and/or other MCHCD events. As I said, we meet weekly to discuss communication topics, and so we'd like to invite board members to join our weekly communications meetings, obviously just one at a time with Chair Garza and Administrator Wiley to avoid Brown Act violation. We talked about revisiting, I know the board has discussed this before, but important to put to paper, the quarterly community meetings, sort of a revisit from the community meetings that were done a year ago in different parts of the district, and ways to go to the people instead of needing the people to always come to you. And then we started drafting a list of community meetings that are active throughout the district, where just like in your meeting today, there's that, at the beginning of each public meeting is an opportunity to speak and provide an update. And so as you make decisions and as you take into consideration different options, to get out into the community at some of these organizations to share an update. Obviously, right, boards can't take action in that timing, but it starts the conversation.
Do I have to pay what?
And helps open the door to receiving feedback as you further your exploration of whether you're going to retrofit, or you're going to build new, or we're going to do a little bit of a hybrid. Just ways to get out into the community and seek information, share information, and seek information. If you go to the obviously, actually, Kathy, go back up there. I think this is important to know that these are just off the top of our heads, and right, everybody's busy, and so I don't know that the administrator can attend all of these meetings, and so it's an opportunity for board members to get out and tell the story a little bit as well. Okay, next. Social media outreach. So we have been working hard over the last year to enhance the social media presence for the healthcare district. We have also include and look for information from Adventist Health and continue to share that forward. We also put together here some statistics for you about performance of Facebook and Instagram in 2024. So if you see there between, January to January, the Facebook page reach increased by 896%. This is just having dedicated posts weekly. During this time, all the content was organic. No funds were allocated for boosted posts or ads. The Facebook views, which track the total number of times the content has been displayed or played, reached over 30,000. And the page experienced 2.2 thousand visits and gained 47 new followers. Instagram, which is not used as widely in your area, but still has a presence. You'll see that, and we only went back the last 3 months. Actually, that's all that Instagram will provide you data with. But again, you'll see there's an increase in followers. And while I think it's important to note here that while the follower count on both platforms seems low, the success of the content is evident in the reach, views, and profile visit data. So it is getting out there, which is awesome. Ongoing communication projects. I continue to engage in the 2030 hospital team and look forward to that standing planning committee, which I believe is going to be talked about tonight, and connect with the agency administrator on various agency reports and communications as needed. That's my report for this month. Thank you.
From Ms. Garrity? Okay, thank you, Rob, very much. Okay, Ms. Wiley.
Thank you. I will post this online. I wanted to mention that we have a new ambulance that's parked outside that this board paid for out of Measure C money, and it was put into service, I think this week. And so it's parked out there, so you go take a look at it. So, and we're really proud that that was part of this board's actions last year. There are some changes to in-person meeting participation. It's as a result of AB 2302, and why I mention it is it affects our standing committees. So the planning, the facilities, and the Measure B are going to require in-person meetings primarily. And we have that plan. Hopefully they'll be either in this room or in the Neva Cannon room. Yet to be determined. I may tap the foundation for some meeting space. So there's requirements, but essentially depending on how often you meet per month, it limits how many times you can miss a meeting or phone in. I wanted to mention that I've been following up with LAFCO on that grand jury report about having a new municipal service review to study the services that this district performs for the taxpayers. And LAFCO has agreed that we have to finish the audits and then sort of really get to an understanding about what the facility is going to be, how much it's going to cost, and then have all of that in place before they start a municipal service review. So they've agreed to hold off, and they hope that we'll have the information to them so they can let the Board of Supervisors and the grand jury know, possibly within 6 months, how we are all going to fund this municipal service review going forward. So more information about that. And then the facilities planning process, I think has already been mentioned, that as we use this planning committee, we'll be hopefully having 2 meetings a month. Those will be Brown Act meetings where the planning committee goes with members of the public through a process to figure out what is the best thing to do for the facility based on costs and all the other factors. So that's in the works. I have a draft agenda. If we can, I hope that we will have our first planning committee of the year next Monday at 3 o'clock. That's the plan. We'll see. And then I wanted to mention board, I found out that we are responsible for administering a Transamerica retirement fund that I didn't know about. And that fund has approximately $6 million in it, has about 140 participants in it, and they are all retirees or former employees of our district who ended up working for Adventist Health when Adventist came in. So Transamerica is closing that fund. and these people have a letter saying that you must move your funds. And as far as I understand right now, mine is sort of just supervisory. I look over and make sure that, yes, this person filed the correct forms, and I send it up to a Transamerica person. They say, yes, it's all correct, and the person gets their retirement. So that's working well. I just bring it to your attention because it may require a little bit of extra administrative time. I don't know what the timeline is for closing those accounts, and I've asked Transamerica to send me a copy of the letter that went out to the employees. So I'll keep you informed on that.
In addition, Ms. Wiley, it might be helpful to mention that we're apparently we're going to be obligated to track down somebody.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is there was a former employee who's deceased, and they have to have local help to find beneficiaries in town so that they can disperse those funds. So it's just a little more than, I just wanted you to be informed. And then lastly, Chair Garza mentioned that there are threats to funding. And so I included a little bit of information about what funding cuts might look like and why it's important, why it would affect our hospital deeply. And then I gave you some links if you want to do bedtime reading about that. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay, don't see any. So then with that, we're now open for public comment. Any public comment on the reports? Okay, good. Let's move on to next item of business, which is our discussion and possible action, including election of chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer of the Mendocino Coast Healthcare District for the 2025 calendar year. So as I understand, our process is we begin by nominating and electing chair and then move down. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's completely up to you how you want to run it.
Okay.
With your permission, I would like to nominate you to continue on as chair. And I want to make a statement as to why, so I can convince my other board members. This is a very complicated leadership role. It's not simple and requires a lot of previous knowledge of how to communicate with other leaders. I feel like that Paul has done an incredible job so far. I've experienced a previous chair, and I know what happens when you're not clear about what chairmanship is like, and what the goals and objectives are clearly. Paul has been the leader with us for how long now? It's about 8 months, would you say?
1 year.
1 year? Okay, seems like 8 months. Went fast. So I want to make a strong plea to continue the leadership that we've had for the last year. So I'm asking the board to vote for Paul Garza for chair to start the election process.
I would second that.
Well, I appreciate that very much, but I would like to, if I could, turn this now over to our Madam Secretary, Director Savage, to conduct the chair selection.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so with your permission, Paul Katzif, I'm assuming that was a nomination for Paul Garza for chair. And I would ask for if there are any further nominations for chair.
I also nominate Paul Garza.
I'm sorry.
I also nominate Paul Garza for the same.
Is double nominated. Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, Paul Garza is the sole nominee, and I would call the roll because this is a public body, so we need to vote. So I'll start with Lynn Finley, sorry. It's a slip.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, Paul Katzif.
Yes.
And Jan McGordy.
Yes.
And Susan Savage, yes. And Paul Garza.
Yes.
You need to, okay. Okay, so Paul is reelected as our chair, and you have the gavel again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your vote of confidence very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Now, we have now nominations now in order for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Jan for that position. I've worked with her on other boards, and I know that she has good leadership skills, and I know that the two of you seem to work well together. So I wanted to nominate Jan McCoy.
Okay. Are there any other nominations at this point for vice chair?
I'm going to make a race out of it. I want to nominate myself.
Okay. Okay. So that's, I want to make it clear that that is very appropriate
Yes. Very.
and well within that's, yeah. Okay. Any other nominations? Well, okay, hearing none.
How do you do it?
Yeah, I guess, now, do we vote by ballot or?
Well, I believe there's a couple of different ways to do it. I mean, one is we call the roll and people say who they're voting for. The other is that we have a ballot and then we announce who voted, but that seems, with the permission of the body, it seems easier just to call the roll.
Okay, okay, go ahead, yeah.
Okay. Okay, Paul Katzeff.
I'll vote for myself.
Jan McGorty.
I vote for myself.
Pardon?
I vote for myself.
Okay. And Susan Savage, Jan McGorty. And Paul Garza.
Well, let me defer for right now.
Okay, Lynn Finley.
Jan McCoy.
Jan McGorty. Okay, back to Paul Garza.
Well, I'm going to vote for Paul because I appreciate his support and I would like to at least let you know that I also appreciate him. But
Okay.
that is not to say that I don't have great respect for Director McGorty. Yes.
Okay. So Jan McGorty is elected vice chair.
Okay, now can we move on then to secretary?
Mm-hmm.
Nominations for secretary?
I'd like to nominate Susan to continue with that role.
Okay.
I'll second that.
And Paul seconds? Okay. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Okay, then call the roll, please, Madam Secretary, or should I call it because you?
Well, yeah, you call the roll. I'll write it down, you call
I'll call
it.
the roll, okay. Director Finley?
Yes.
Okay, Director McGorty?
Yes.
Director
Yes.
Katzif?
Yes.
Director Garza, yes. Director Savage?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last, now we have the last position is treasurer for the board. So,
I have a nomination. I would like to nominate Lynn Finley for treasurer. A great conversation with her and her expertise that I actually wasn't aware of in terms of hospital finance. I think is going to be very, very helpful and appreciate her knowledge and ability.
yeah, I would second that. When she was running, she was very shy and she didn't tell us about her knowledge of hospital finance, but once we found out about it, we thought, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a great thing to have. Okay. Any other nominations for treasurer? Okay, hearing none, can we call the roll?
Okay, Paul Garza,
Yes.
Lynn Finley,
Yes.
Paul Katzeff,
Yes.
Jan McGorty,
Yes.
and Susan Savage, yes. So congratulations.
Okay, well, congratulations to all of you. And I want to point out that while we have officers on this board, and there is responsibility for each one of these, the duties in many cases are perfunctory in the sense that we're 5 people and we're co-equals. I chair the meetings, but that doesn't mean that I have all the wisdom or that what I want happens. It's very much collaborative, and it's a collaborative process. And we had an excellent workshop where I think we were able to come to terms with each other and understand it much better. And I really look forward to a really good year. But there are plenty of activities for everyone to be involved. Now, I believe, is it appropriate, Ms. Wiley, for me now to talk about standing committees? and make those
Take
appointments.
public comment.
Oh, yes,
first.
okay, let's take public comment first. Well, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to do that first before we go to public comment or not.
No,
Yeah.
just public comment, and then we're gonna talk the 4B, and then,
Okay, then we'll get to it.
yeah.
Oh, yes, I see, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
should have, I don't know how many times I read through this agenda, but anyway. Okay, so any public comment?
As a member of the public, I really appreciate all of you, but you really should have taken public comment before you all voted so that you can get insight from the public and, you know, people advocating for different people for the chair, vice chair, and treasurer. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comment? Mr. McDonald?
BINGO, exactly. This is the second time that Mr. Garza has been the chair, and there's been either interviews of potential candidates, or I'm sure you want to set the timer for me, Jan, but belatedly, right? You know, this is just an indication of the sort of false front that goes on here. You know, we have this, oh, everything is, you know, listen to me, I'm pontificating from this chair, and yet he doesn't know how to do the basic things, like when there's an election of board officers or conducting an interview with an election. Last April, we had that, and there was no public comment allowed. I actually interrupted the process and asked, are we going to have public comment? And Mr. Garza said no. And here we have note passing from McGordy to Garza too. That's an extemporaneous comment. You know, there's no point in having public comment after the election of the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer. People just, you know, the meeting you had a few weeks ago, I don't think you're really paying attention. That was, for those who weren't here, that was to clarify how to do public comments for these 5 people to agree on how to do it. And clearly they just don't get it, and the most clear of that is the chair. It's ridiculous.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments. Are there any further comments from the public at this point? Anyone online? Miss Alley, okay.
No hands raised online.
Okay, then let's move on to possible item 4B, discussion and possible action to adopt the draft 2025 regular board meeting and draft 2025 standing finance, planning, and measure C committee meeting master calendar. You'll find that in your agenda. And please note that we need to be, because of the work that we have ahead of us, a good deal more aggressive in these meetings rather than before. Rather than what we did last year, so.
If you allow me to walk you
Yeah,
through.
please do so.
So the bylaws stayed the 4th meeting now, except for November and December. So you'll see that 4B, the first page is just, those are the dates. And for the regular meetings, and of course we can plan special meetings and everything else. That's just a regular meeting date. And then the next page on the committee meeting, it's proposed that you hold the standing committee meetings on Monday, because that allows me to have a regular schedule for clerking the meetings and doing the postings on the Friday beforehand. So I only put this up as an example of how we might run the meetings. And you'll notice that I've proposed quarterly finance meetings in February, May, August, and November. And those are basically around the budgeting schedule. And I worked with Wayne about that scheduling. And then I'm proposing that you have monthly planning meetings on the 2nd and 4th Monday of each month to really get going on this seismic retrofit problem. And then I've also proposed basically quarterly Measure C oversight meetings, as you can see on the calendar. And at the bottom, I just went ahead and listed them. Chair Hurst requested that we try and have a Measure C meeting in February, so I'm working with the committee on that. But those also align with what Measure C has done traditionally. And we'll be able this year, I'm hoping, to work Peter's regular reporting about capital expenditures into Measure C on a regular basis. So that's the plan. And of course, the regular monthly meetings are on Thursdays. And I just threw it up there so you guys can start talking about it.
Okay, it's open for board questions, comments. Yes, George.
I had two thoughts. First off, and I brought this up last time, that you have that the location of the meetings, our regular meetings is here. And we did talk about, as a board, that we were interested in pursuing moving the regular board meeting to different places in the district so that it was more accessible to people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that discussion is precluded by having the location rather than location
So
to be determined, or what are we doing there with that?
through the chair, we talked about that, and the fact of the matter is most of the locations around the district don't have good connectivity. And the guys who come to my meeting to broadcast, regularly need a room space like this with a broadband. So that's a primary reason to have the meetings here. It's not to say that we can't have, we can figure out satellite meetings in some fashion, but for the regular meetings, I wanted to put it in a place where they could function for the Zoom meetings.
Go ahead, yes,
We
please.
did talk about, to Jill at the senior center.
I did, yeah.
About the possibility of holding meetings there.
Right, and that just came up. I had published this on Monday. Jill mentioned it, and they do have a very nice meeting room. Again, though, it's in Fort Bragg, and I think Susan's point is to get it, around the district, not just right in 95437.
I think,
Well,
go ahead.
if I
please,
could,
let Mr. Priscilla.
I think the discussion, and I thought we did have it, but maybe we need to rehab it, is what our priorities are. Because if our priority is to locate meetings where people can come in person more frequently, more easily, that would be the priority, not whether or not there's internet to put it on Zoom. Because I don't believe there's any legal requirement that we don't have to, or any bylaws requirement that we don't have to.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's true.
So I don't know if we need to have that conversation about how important is it to this body to locate in different places as opposed to Zoom. But I would like to not preclude that conversation by publishing something like this that sounds like it's already a done deal.
Yeah, well, at least from my point of view, I think this is just tentative, and we can come up with locations. As I've looked at it, and I am not an expert at this at all, but as I've looked at it in terms of connectivity, and if you see the number, we have people here from the public who are participating, as well as some of our remote reports. If we go to a place like, as much as pretty as it is, I mean, if we could go way up the coast to, no, I can't even think of the name.
Westport.
Westport.
Yeah, Westport. But we've been up there for a meeting. There's no connectivity there. And the same problem if we go all the way down to Elk, and that's a beautiful spot as well. It
Well, are we
looks like-
having the conversation now, or
No,
are
I'm
we
just-
going to,
I'm just
I don't know what we're
commenting.
doing.
No, if you want to, we could go into it. If you've got suggestions, what I'm leading to is saying, I don't know where else we could go besides here at someplace in Fort Bragg or someplace in Mendocino. And they're both about, what, Mendocino's 15 to 20 minutes away from each other. That's, I think, the problem they face. If that's not correct, if there are other places we can go, let's look at that. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Well, I, for one, would really like us to have at least one or two meetings in other parts of the county, not have everything all centered here in Fort Bragg. And I believe, at least the people that I talk to, even if it's in Mendocino instead of coming all the way to Fort Bragg, that's helpful.
Okay.
And that's another serious population center in our district, and that would be, and there is connectivity there.
Yes.
Or it could be that we have some other meeting or other that we do further south for those people. Just when we had our community outreach meetings, to me, it was powerful, the number of people that came to Elk and to Compchi because they wanted to have something to say about what was going on in the district. And I would like to honor that and include that in some way. Most overwhelmingly, the meetings can be here, but I would really think it would be helpful, particularly if we want to connect with the community about where we're going with our facility. It would be helpful if we go to them.
Okay, could I ask for this? I mean, okay, Director McGordy.
When I was on the Behavioral Health Board, we rotated our meetings around the county, which was much bigger area than just the first area.
Yeah, true.
So, and I think that we should have more community meetings in these other places. Not necessarily, I mean, a board meeting seriously can be kind of boring. But if we want,
Well stated.
I mean, but if you want input from the community, to have community meetings in those places where you have all the time to listen to what people have to say. Oh, God, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it on? Yeah, it's on. Sorry. So to have community meetings, especially with, looking forward to this year with the planning that needs to be done for the hospital, to have regular community meetings in the distant places and not worry about board meetings.
So that would be, can I do this? I mean, this is, and I agree. It's a big geography we have. One of the interesting things, I don't know, I found very curious. I don't know if you're aware of this, the fact that while we only have a population in this county of about 90,000 people,
Yes.
we have, in terms of square miles, we're as big as the nation of Scotland.
Right.
I thought, well, really, that hit me. So we do have some interesting dynamics here. If I could, may I appoint an ad hoc committee of Director Savage and Director McGordy to work this next month and come up with a plan that would make sense for
Okay.
all of us,
Okay.
and propose that for by next February? Is that reasonable?
Yeah,
sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So, if I could though, we need to get going on planning right away.
Right.
So, is it, so now Director McGurdy is the chair of planning. Is it, I guess we'll talk about the committees on the next one, but I'd like to get going next Monday.
Yes.
Okay.
One point of information.
Yes.
On the list of dates, I did want to point out that one of the planning committee dates that she has on there is Memorial Day. And I kind of think maybe you don't
Probably
really
won't
mean
do that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, that makes some sense. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, and thank you. I think I do look forward to us extending into this community. I think it's critical. So that's, okay. Is there any public comment at this point on item 4B?
Could you just tell us what area that the district encompasses?
We start a little bit past Westport at the county border, and we go all the way down to Elk. And we go inland a little bit. We used to have all of Compchi, and I don't know this area as well as some of you may, but I understand some of the residents of Compchi opted out of our district because it was easier for them to go over the hill to Ukiah than it was to come here. But it's a pretty vast area. It represents, our estimate is roughly about 20,000 people, but it's pretty spread out. And of course, it would be great from my point of view if we move the meeting around regularly, but we have such limited broadband, which is another major issue that we could talk about. That creates a little bit of a problem. But if anybody has suggestions of where we could add to this and be functional, please let us know. I mean, I know that you've got a great facility in Casper that would be fun to go to, but there's no broadband. So anyway, Any other public comment? But thank you. Okay, let's move on then. We're now at our
Chair?
committee assignment. Yes.
Sorry, are you guys going to make a motion to adopt the schedule? Not as,
Oh,
maybe not the board one, but the committee schedule and everything, or
Thank
you
you
could
very
adopt
much.
it with amendment, or what's the action that will be happening tonight?
Thank you, Miss Ally.
You're welcome.
Okay, so going to entertain a motion to approve the calendar with the exceptions made that we will be looking at potentially meetings at other locations rather than this for board, community meetings, and then there's that meeting on Memorial Day that we won't do.
I will go,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, who just, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Finley, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in, roll call, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Secretary?
Thank you. Susan Savage, yes. Paul Garza,
Yes?
Lynn Finley,
Yes?
Paul Katzef. That was a yes? Okay. And Jan McGorty?
Yes.
Okay, we're approved.
Okay. So, the Finance Committee Chair is Director Finley, according to our bylaws. So, we need to have an additional member on that Finance Committee. Director Katzef, were you willing to serve
No.
on that? Okay. There's someone else who would.
So you know, I don't want to serve on two committees. I want to be on that planning committee.
Okay. Thank you.
So you know.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, question through the board.
Yes, please.
What is the standing in terms of which standing committees the chair might serve on? Or do you not serve on standing committees, or how does that work?
Well,
Because there's a certain logic in terms of dealing with finances that the chair might want to be involved in that, but I don't know.
Well, there is, but I guess I'm concerned. I would like to work with planning because that's
Got it.
That's where we're
Okay.
going, and I've spent a whole lot of time trying to organize folks with some expertise. So I'd
Okay.
like to continue to support that with Director McGorty as the chair.
Okay.
But there's no harm in having three members.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
There
is.
is.
Yeah, the Brown
No,
Act.
these are already.
You can have two board members, and so it could be that since Director Finley is the chair of finance by the bylaws, that the second, whoever that other board member is, remains blank tonight, and the finance committee comes back with a recommendation for that, working with you other ones, and also the community members, recruiting community members who might be willing to serve. And the same is true, if I could mention, about the finance committee, the planning committee. Originally, Michael Blaisdell, Gabriel Maroney, and Lynn were community members on the planning committee. And so I would maybe suggest that that first meeting, we recruit who wants to be on this committee, and then come back with a recommendation to this body about the committee members.
Okay, I like that. Is there any objection to that? Director Savage?
Well, I just wanted to say that if no one else is interested in finance, that I would certainly be interested, for your consideration,
thank you.
to work with Lynn.
Okay, thank you.
Learn something from Lynn.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, and then Measure C, of course, is then settled, although we may, because we're losing Ms. Finley, we may need another member on that. Let's see, that would give us 1, 2, 3, well, 4, 5. That would be okay. We're still okay. Okay.
Chair?
I would like to, yes.
So, since this is one item, and I've listed these committee members as, these committees that you have to fill, it might be a good time to propose the planning, who is let's see, who is that? That Jan is the chair now by the bylaws. So, and we do know that the Measure C committee is already functioning and may add more, but we have that. It might be a good time to take public comment.
Okay, well, okay, I wanted to do that, but I'm wondering if I might make one ad hoc committee. You know, ad hoc committees are only there for a temporary period of time, but I would like to re-up one ad hoc committee. Is that appropriate now?
I don't have it listed on the agenda as an action item today, that you can appoint an ad hoc at any point.
Yeah, I can do that. That's what I thought. Is that correct, Miss Alley?
Yeah, you can have ad hocs at any time. You can make those appointments.
Okay, I want to continue. I would like to propose that we continue our Blue Zone Committee, and I want to have Paul Kassoff chair that again. And we'll see where it goes. We're not always sure where Paul is going. I want to make that really clear, and I think he likes that. But he has. With his approach and his energy, he has brought a whole lot of very interesting issues forward to the board. And I know that he has now developed a working relationship with Adventist Health on Blue Zone, and that looks very promising. And it's something that I think we, as a board, want to support enthusiastically. And I think he would do a very good job. So if there's, without objection, we'll have. And I will continue to work with you on that as a second at listening, but it's yours, okay?
Got it.
Okay. Okay, great. So do we have a motion to approve this? Are we, no, public comment, pardon me. I'm sorry. Public comment now on committees, committee assignments. Mr. Maroney.
Gabriel Quinn Maroney. I'm still a little confused exactly on the planning committee. Like, am I going to be on the planning committee, or is that going to be changed? But I want to say that I do look forward to serving on the planning committee. We haven't really had meetings, which was kind of unfortunate, and I look forward to having meetings and serving. Thank you.
Mr. Maroney, we look forward to your continuing on the planning committee. So I want to make that clear, okay?
Which is actually going to meet.
What?
Which is actually going to meet.
Yes, well, it's every intention to ramp it up because we have a lot of work to do there. We do. Okay, so now we need to, any other public comment? Okay, so can we have a motion then to approve what we've done so far?
Okay.
Yep.
I think I've written it down, so I would like to move that Lynn and Susan serve on the Finance Committee, that Jan and Paul Garza serve on the Planning Committee, and that Paul Kassoff chair a Blue Zone Ad Hoc Committee. Is that correct?
Okay, well, is there a second?
I second.
Director Kassoff?
Yeah, if you serve on the planning committee, can I attend? That makes 3.
You can attend, you can't participate as the board member. It would be like a work, you could not participate as a voting, but remember, these are advisory committees to the full body.
I got that.
So he wouldn't be able to vote, but he can speak as much as he wants.
He cannot speak, he can listen.
He can listen.
Marginalized again. Go ahead.
Okay, are we, any more discussion? We're ready
So
to vote?
what I just heard was that you, the motion was McGurty as the chair and Kassoff as the second.
Garza.
It's Garza? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, I've got Finance is me and Lynn, Planning is Jan and Paul Garza, and Paul Kassoff so far on the Blue Zone. And I don't know if you anticipate another member working with that or not.
The
But
blue
that's
zone
okay.
I have is Kassoff and Garza.
And Garza
Yes.
on the, okay, got it.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, do we have a second? We have a second?
yes,
Okay,
Jan,
okay.
or no, that was Lynn.
Lynn's Jan.
It was Jan, okay, thank you.
Want to call the roll?
Okay, Paul Kassoff,
No.
Jan McGorty,
Yes.
Susan Savage, yes, Paul Garza,
Yes?
and Lynn Finley,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, now we're on to item,
This is Wayne's report.
4E. No. Yes, 4E. This is the, consider and approve the Adventist Health Mendocino Coast Hospital capital
Wait a minute.
expenditures list.
No, we're on 4D, Chair.
4D.
Receiving file check register
report.
reports.
I'm sorry. 4D, I'm sorry. 4D, it's receive and file a check register report, actual budget report, treasury bill inventory portfolio, and the summary of cash values. And for this item, let me turn it over to our CFO, Mr. Allen.
Okay, thank you. Let's start with the check register, and we're working with the month of December of 2024. There were a couple transactions that represented large amounts. The first one was at the top where $1,125,000 was put into the improvements fund in the Wells Fargo Bank at Adventist Health. It's our first semi-annual payment of our fiscal year. There'll be another one in June of 2025. So that represents 1/2 of the obligation that we have. And then down near the bottom, as a Tri-Counties tax revenue, and when we get on the P&L here in a second, I'll explain that further, but our tax money came in during December, and that amount of money was segregated specifically in the tax rolls for Measure C. So I put it into the account that we have at Tri-Counties Bank, $854,552. The other transactions are rather routine and much smaller, obviously. So let's go to the second page, which is the profit and loss statement. And also, this is for the month of December, the first 3 columns, and the second 3 columns are year-to-date. We're at a 6-month anniversary of our fiscal year, but focused on the income for the month of December. There are a lot of free transactions there that are huge, and they don't repeat too often, but they come in on a basically almost a semi-annual basis. And the first one I just mentioned was the tax money, $854,000 was Measure C. The rest is $602,000. The total amount of the check that came in was $1,456,780. So, and it was divided up among those 2 accounts. So property tax and Measure C. We'll be getting probably the second installment sometime in March of this year, 2025. And then the other large payment coming in was our semi-annual rental income from Adventist Health, and that was $875,000. So we had $2.3 million of cash income, and we spent over about $2 million in those 2 funds I just mentioned. So our expenses are routine. There's nothing out of the ordinary there that I would call your attention to. They total $35,686 for the month. Budget was $51,000. So we are $15,000 favorable under budget. That same situation exists in year-to-date, moving straight across the page there, Kathy. We had $224,000 of actual, $333 of budget, so we are considerably under budget by 108,000 at the moment. So that can flip in a hurry with expenses that are out there and projects that we have underway. And so don't annualize that and think we're going to come in 200,000 under budget for the year, because I don't think that's going to happen at all. Down under restricted payments is the mention that I had on the check register. We made a payment into the lease improvements fund of 1,125,000, paid the revenue bond at 37,000 to the Bank of New York, and then our state help to loan 13,802, and then the transfer in tri-counties of 854,000. So we had restricted payments of 2,030,000. Up above in income, we had 2.3 million. So we did have a little positive cash flow for the month. Go to the next page, Kathy. The investment fund report and monthly portfolio. This first page deals with the active accounts that are treasury bill accounts that are and the you see way over on the right side the date. We only have one item maturing in this month in January, then a couple in February, March, and April, and one way back in June. So I've got them spaced out with 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 13 weeks, 17 weeks, and 26 weeks. And you can see the investment rate is hanging in there about at 4.4, 4.3%. So it came down from the 5.3, but it's still a very favorable rate that we're having. And a lot of speculation talk in the investment circles about that maybe interest rates will stay kind of stable for the next 6 months, maybe 12 months, all of 25. And if anything, they might trend back up. So I don't see I do not see them going down into the 3.5 or 3.8 in a hurry here. I know the speculation. I read an article today about President Trump is going to try to put some heat on Jay Powell to get the interest rates lower, but Powell's not going to yield to that. So I think that it'll stay pretty stable. And down on the footnote, we have matured investment income that's been cashed out of 331,000 starting in June of just 6 or 7 months ago, starting in June of last year, the various months, and it's 331,000. If you go up to the column, Kathy, that says 159,000, that's interest that will accrue, that is accruing. If you move the arrow up, Kathy, to the 159, rounding it off, 160,000 is accruing and will mature on those various maturity dates. You take 160,000 and add it to the 331, you basically have got a $500 million interest income that we've had since day one. So that's huge. Second page of this report.
I wish it were 500 million.
So, and the par value, we started with, and I'll go back, go back to the other page, Kathy. On the first column, the par value, we started with 13,200,000. And then down below, again on that three, I have invested the 331,000 so I can get interest on interest very quickly. It's not like a bank where you have to wait 6 or 12 months to get your interest income. These mature, every almost every month, and it's reinvested at that point. So I've reinvested that 331,000. So go ahead on the next page, Kathy, and these are the ones that have matured just for historical purposes. And there you see a bunch of 5.3s in the beginning, and now we're into the 4s. Okay, final, go another page. I always check, obviously, at the end of the month, with Treasury Direct, which is the platform from the United States Treasury, and to make sure they've got the same balance that I have, and you'll see their total is 13,531,300. The same total I've got on my worksheet. So I balance that. Never had a problem with the Treasury. So, but it's for your security and my reporting. So, next page is yeah, cash balances at December 31. The deferred revenue account that Adventist has, they're on a calendar year of, 12/31, obviously, calendar year. And I could not get from them, they were still reconciling some accounts, the amount that's in that. And when I get that, I'm going to update this report, and we can send it out as an updated report. So it's pending some feedback from Adventist Health. And then here you see the Treasury bills listed at what we paid, and then the par value of what I mentioned before, 13,531,000. Down below in our operations account, we have a balance of 812,000 at Tri-Counties. The Measure C account is there of 965,000. That includes the recent amount that we put in. And then we have our LAIF account of 618,000. So the total's 15,768,000. That's the end of my report. What was that comment, Paul?
I said, I understand we had an extraordinary legal bill.
Yes, that hit us in January. It came through, I guess, as a New Year's situation. So when I saw the invoice there from our legal counsel, we had one invoice that was over $10,000 that got my attention in a hurry. And it'll be obviously in the January report. And it was a work done for Mr. Malcolm McDonald on a public request, and it was over $10,000. Huge. It just, and now I understand he's got another request from Kathy for another subject. So I'm kind of disappointed and upset with that, but it it was honoring and doing what we had to do with fulfilling that public request, and it was over $10,000. So you'll hear more about it in our January report. So,
Okay, so this is through December, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, questions from the board? Comments, board?
No.
Okay. We're now notice that,
Paul,
yeah.
public comment?
yeah, I'm just,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. I want to note it that we have moved the treasurer's report by Mr. Allen because there was a great deal of interest in the treasurer's report from just a simple report now to approve it. So the board is actually going to act to approve it in order to facilitate public comment and make sure you have the opportunity for it. So the public comment now on this financial report. Mr. McDonald.
How appropriate. The amount of money that got racked up on that public records request, the public records request was for documents involving 3 board members over a period, I think roughly from Memorial Day to September of a specific year. And what was eventually sent to me were documents from, mostly emails, but documents involving those 3 board members for the next 3 years beyond the year that I requested.
Huh.
So the expense incurred is 3/4 at least the responsibility of lack of reading the request, which was very easily readable and very specific, correctly, either by the chair or the agency administrator or somebody else at RGS, and or miscommunicating that to the attorneys or the attorney's assistants. So I think the rest of the public needs to know that. This is part of the screw up here. It's not my responsibility to rewrite the public requests and send them in over and over again and say, you guys are screwing this up. The one that I have currently, which is beyond the amount of time that the board should have responded for, is for a specific time period of emails or any communications between board members then, roughly halfway through last year through the beginning of this year, with props and measures, employees or consultants or anything. So just for the transparency of that, we'll see what happens with that one. And there will be I will reveal, for lack of a better word, the reason for that once those documents are given to me. But the racking up the big money is the responsibility on that other one, is on this board and its hirees, not me.
Okay, we have any more public comment at this point? Okay.
Chair, it was a Public Records Act request that was several years old. So the public has a right to ask for information in a public body, so this was fulfilling that request.
But you're not saying that you made a mistake.
If you,
You're
I
right,
can recognize
I'm
you
not.
again, but I want you to stand up.
It was specifically for a time in May 2019. It was filed before RGS, I believe, was even here, so there's
Right.
that. But it was very, clear. From May of 2019 to some point in September, I want to say approximately the 20th of 2019, for 3 of the long-running board members from the 2019 through the end of 2022 period. And the mistakes, though, the sending the things for 2020, emails and documents from the 3 board members, past board members, from for the additional years, which were 2020, 2021, and 2022, occurred after Mr. Garza became chair and after we had an agency administrator from RGS, Regional Government Services, for those who don't know what that is. So the responsibility, is on them for reading the request, which there was a communication from the current agency administrator to me that they were working on that, and that, that documents would be forthcoming, and then another one that documents would be forthcoming. So presumably, the agency administrator and possibly the chair would have been reading and or rereading the original request, which was very specific.
Well, personally, I had no interest in reading your request, but I was interested that we get it to you, so we've done that.
I have interest in seeing that original request. I want this settled. This is like up in the air. This is like accusations, and the public has a right to know who's responsible for that money and that mistake. Was it the person who requested it, or was it us?
Sorry.
Hey, that's fantastic. When I speak, the heavens open up.
There you go.
Okay.
So I would like to make a request to see the request for
Okay.
public information.
So we
And I'd
can-
like it agendized for the next meeting so we can resolve this and not have it hanging over our head or over Malcolm's head.
Okay. We can do that. Okay, any
Okay.
more public comment on Mr. Allen's presentation? If not, then we need to, or we need to accept his report.
Accept, yes, I was going to make that correction.
Okay, thank you.
So I would move that we accept the report from Wayne.
I would second that.
Okay. Okay, are we ready?
Roll call?
Okay. All right, Jan McGorty,
Yes.
Susan Savage, yes, Paul Garza,
Yes.
Leon Finley,
Yes.
and Paul Katzif.
Yes.
Accepted.
Okay, we're finally at Mr. Johnston's. I kept trying to get him up there earlier. I apologize for
Kathy, would you be able to pull that
Yeah,
spreadsheet up
give
for
me
us,
one
please?
second.
Thank you. So, let me get situated here. Thank you. Everything's falling off. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to present this report. First, I would like to thank Wayne for all of his help in reviewing this with Kathy and I last week. This is going to be our procedure going forward, I believe. We're going to, at least a week ahead of time, have this information for Wayne and Kathy to have a meeting with myself and board members if needed to review what our report's going to be, and here we go. So thank you, Wayne. Oh, and then I would like also to thank Wayne for being patient for getting our financial report. There's a lot of numbers in there, and we want them to be accurate. Jeff Mock has dedicated one of his top analysts, Patty, to help me. I've been back and forth with her multiple times today to put the finishing touches on that. So Wayne, as soon as we have that available, and Jeff will send that to you. Let's see. Also, thank you for funding the improvement fund. That's important for us to be able to continue our work here. I want to thank the board and the taxpayers for continuing to fund the improvement fund, because that's going to make us whole. That improvement fund right now has 18 to 24 months of projects planned out in there. So the balance was around $4 million back in June. We'll have that number for you soon, Wayne. But there's 18 to 24 months of projects in there. With that being said, all that money's not being spent at once. So we project out how the money that's needed. So right now, after the payment that came to the improvement fund, we should be about whole. And then tonight, I would like to request us starting off in 2025, we want to get off on the right foot where we come and ask the board for permission to use the money from the improvement fund to fund the projects that are going on to at the facility. So last month in December, I presented this list. We had yet to get the final numbers in there, but the list hasn't changed with one exception. We had some door thresholds that need to be repaired, and so that was added. So tonight, I would ask the board please approve this list of expenditures for January in 2025 as it's presented.
Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions about the report.
Questions from the board?
No, I went through all of it.
Questions?
Okay,
Yes.
okay, well, okay, this is a list of all the projects that are current, ongoing. Some of these we've already approved, or
No.
we're asking for approval of this
No,
is a new
Director.
list?
So Director Savage, so this list going forward, the agreement we have with the CFO and Kathy and I believe the board, that we will only present new items once
Got
they're
it.
funded, once they're approved to be and once they're approved for use out of the improvement fund monies, then we will track that and we'll report how that money is being spent. So that's the report that you will be seeing shortly. All the projects that were approved and the amount of money that was spent in all those projects. That's why it's taken so long. This list is new. These are new items that happened to the building since the last allocation was approved. And I discussed this list in detail at last meeting. I think I went line item by line item with it. So nothing's changed in that list.
Okay, for no question, yes, McGord?
I'm just,
Yeah, right in your mic.
Oh.
Is this within the budget of the fund, the Measure C fund, or the money that the Adventist has? Is this within that?
So Director, the payment that Wayne just stated that he paid to the improvement fund, or the board paid, that 1.2 million, that goes into a bank account that is the improvement fund.
Right.
Then we ask the board if we can spend that money on projects.
So that's a yes.
That's you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
To go in a little more detail, then you would ask Measure C to reimburse the district board. Yeah. Anyway, reimburse the district board for the funds that they funded the improvement fund with projects that meet the Measure C criteria, which is why I'm happy to go to Measure C and report why they meet the Measure C criteria. I wouldn't put them on here if we would not do that. So everything on here meets Measure C criteria so far.
Okay, great.
In my opinion.
Thank you. Let's go on to any public comment at this point. Any public comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the request from Adventist Health.
I'll make that motion. I've gone through this thoroughly and.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Can we go to roll call then, please?
Yes, we can. Hang on. Okay, Paul Katzif.
I abstain.
Jan McGordy.
Yes.
Susan Savage, yes. Paul Garza.
Yes?
And Lynn Finley.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, we have do we have a representative from Health Management Associates tonight?
We sure do.
Okay. We wanted to reconsider this, so please, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Steve Soto, Managing Principal for Health Management Associates out of our Sacramento office. And I was here tonight to answer any questions that the board may have on a proposal we submitted after an initial chat with several of you back in October about our ability to provide assistance to the district on taking a look at its previous history with, as was mentioned, a particular IGT program, Intergovernmental Transfer Program. The vernacular is the Voluntary Rate Range Program, to look into the district's previous history with it, as well as the possibility that the district didn't realize the funding coming back for that program that it should have received, as well as then help the district explore getting back into the program and participate and draw down supplemental funding in 2020 for the calendar year 2024 period going forward. So we prepared a proposal, initial proposal that's a little broader than that. Kathy asked us to narrow it strictly to the IGT assistance, which we did. And so the proposal in front of you now is for the IGT-focused services only at this point. But starting with, as you'll see in the first bullet, doing the research, checking with the Department of Healthcare Services and Partnership Health Plan on the recent history, what difficulties the district had, why it didn't realize the funding, report back to you on what we're told, and then also find out for you about getting the district back into the program for calendar year 2024 onward. And that would be the first step. That's all we would do at the beginning and report back to you on that before any of the rest of the work would take place.
Okay, thank you. Is that helpful for board members? We had some questions last time about. And I believe also there's a little bit of a modification of the cost structure so that if we move forward, we would be initially incurring $15,000 and then potentially more later on if we needed those additional services.
Yeah, actually, it's the way we bill only for the services we provide. The way we'd approach it is that first bullet only.
Okay.
That may be 5 to 10 hours worth of work. It might be 10 to 15 hours of work. So it could be anything from $3,000 to $5,000 to get that first bullet explored for you, depending on how challenging it is to get with people with the Department of Healthcare Services and Partnership Health Plan. It may be 10 to 12 hours of work. So maybe it's $5,000. My point is I want to make sure you understand, even though it says $30,000 in the document, that's the ceiling. We're looking at this as tackling the first problem for you first and then reporting back to you on what we found before you then say, okay, go ahead with the rest of it.
And then, Mr. Soto, I guess the other question I have, aside from commenting that this is really convenient for you, so you get a longer weekend. So, Mr. Soto lives in Fort Bragg.
Our family residence is here in Fort Bragg. I work Monday through Friday in Sacramento, running the Sacramento office. But the obvious view here is that I have a vested interest in making sure the district succeeds and healthcare works better here.
And then it's our understanding that if successful, and you folks believe that success is highly likely, we would be able then to receive approximately another $1 million a year.
Yeah, we would quantify that. When we moved into the second bullet, one of the things we would then do is quantify what your potential additional reimbursement, additional supplemental funding would be by participating in the program, which the whole intent of the program is to, through an intergovernmental transfer program, allow, in this case, the district to put up the non-federal share of funding to Sacramento, so Sacramento can draw down federal funds back through the health plan. And then the health plan would send the money back, not just what you initially put up, but also a good chunk of that second dollar then comes back to the district as well towards the unmet costs that you and Adventist incur providing Medi-Cal services. That's the whole intent of it. I wouldn't know the specific amount until we dig into the cost data, talk with you, talk with Wayne, but that's the whole intent of the program.
Okay, great. Director Savage.
Okay, so I do not mean this to kind of steal the thunder of what you're about to do at all, but because we've been around the bush a few times with this whole issue, and tell me if I'm misunderstanding, that the program is tied to Medi-Cal reimbursement.
Yes, it is.
And if the healthcare district, different from Adventist, is not receiving Medi-Cal benefits or dealing with it, is there a theory that you're going to be operating on that somehow?
We're going to explore that as part of our first conversations with the department, because we represent 22 similar entities across the state, including 3 or 4 healthcare districts. And at least in one of those cases, they have an operator agreement with a similar entity. And as far as we know, the department allows them to participate in the program. And I was looking and doing my research before I came up today and looking at the department's listing of its participants in the voluntary rate range program from 2021, and the healthcare district's listed there from 2021, which gets to the conversation we had earlier about then why did things run into difficulty? We would explore that with the department, with Partnership Health Plan. And we'd be free to talk whoever you want us to talk with Adventist, to explore it. We would not proceed any further on this if we found out there was an obstacle identified by the department, but you would know that before we go any farther. I would also say that even if the health plan told us there was a challenge or a problem with it, and the department may indicate there's an issue, we are dealing with those people now with our other clients, and we deal with Partnership Health Plan. So we would be more than happy to be somewhat energetic in dealing with them about asking them to please make sure of their stance on this.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
So, yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Director Florey.
So my question is, so you're doing this on Medi-Cal payments?
The whole focus of the program, how this works, is to identify unmet costs the district incurs between what is paid by Partnership Health Plan under the contract for inpatient and outpatient services and your actual costs, the unmet costs. So yes, it's built on what Partnership pays for Medi-Cal services, who is the entity paying for inpatient and outpatient services, and what you'd be submitting to both the health plan and the state as, that's swell, but our actual cost of care is up to here. We are seeking additional supplemental funding to help offset this here.
So then would the money go to Adventist?
Well, what we want to find out from the department is how would this work based on what they've already approved elsewhere, and then get back to you on what we're hearing from the department before we do anything else. They may say the money goes back to the district decides how it works with what goes downstream to Adventist. I do not know that, but I didn't want to presume anything until we did the initial exploration for you, should you want us to at least go that far, do a little digging for you, and then come back to you and tell you what they're telling us. And that includes talking to the health plan.
Thank you.
More questions from board? Okay, public comment? Mr. McDonald?
Has anybody on this board or has the chair directed the CFO to contact DHCS or Partnership about confirming or not confirming essentially what Director Savage asked? Because the district does not participate in anything related to Medi-Cal and hasn't since July 1st of 2020. So, as of what happened in, not because of her, but during Director Savage's first year on the board, money was sent into the IGT program, basically out of, good faith but lack of knowledge, I would say. It's probably the best way to describe it. And then the DHCS and Partnership, denied that, and it took the then treasurer of the board and others, and with the help of Wayne, I guess, too, probably, another year to get that $1 million, approximately $1 million back to the district. So I would wonder why we're going to be hiring an outside consulting entity. Why shouldn't the board direct the CFO to talk to DHCS and or Partnership and or anything else at the state to find out where this, doesn't that fall under the purview of what Mr. Allen's being paid for?
Other public comment at this point?
We do have a hand raised here online.
Okay.
Jeff M., you want to mute yourself? Your 5-minute time will start.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Jeff Mock. I'm the CFO for our North Coast area that supports the Mendocino coast. I just wanted to at least give my confirmation that Adventist Health will do all that we can to be supportive. I mean, at the end of the day, if these funds are able to go to Medi-Cal patients, and if there's something that we can do to help the board and that money comes to the district, we're happy to participate. Secondarily, if there's some funds that come into Medi-Cal that support both the district and Adventist Health, again, the more that we have funding to help support those, the vulnerable in need for Medi-Cal, again, we're here to support. So ideally, we want to make sure that the board is comfortable, that they have clarity on how the funds are being used, but any way that we can participate and be helpful, you have our confirmation on our end for sure.
Great, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Thank you. And, again, I think Mr. Soto, I thought made it pretty clear, but let me also underscore that one of the problems that we face, and all rural hospitals for that matter face that, is that the Medi-Cal reimbursement for services is about 25 to 30% of what the actual cost is to deliver the service. So this gives us, that doesn't fix the problem, but it at least it gives us something to put into that gap if successful. And that's the goal here.
I would like to ask Wayne
Yes.
directly if he could address Malcolm's question or concerns as far as if this is something that he would be able to look into, or his information about the IGT in relationship to hiring another company.
Yeah, I've looked into it and called some people at the state and that partnership health plan, and getting nowhere on it. They're saying pushback is you're not providing patient care. And the wild card that I'm looking for in this contract is we're providing almost $2.5 million of skin in the game in that improvements fund to have a workplace where Adventist Health can deliver patient care. And they just kind of give me the run around, and I think we've got an opportunity to use some expertise there to say that, yeah, the district is really indirectly providing patient care through the workplace. The fact that we have an operator, we've got to work through that, and it may get to a legal situation, because I believe that's a wild card that we can stand on. So I've tried and I'm not successful.
So what's your recommendation on going forward with the company?
What, I missed that.
I was just wondering what your recommendation is as far as going forward.
Yeah, yes, my recommendation is let's take this small step and see if it can, I have some positive vibes about it, that maybe these people know people and can get through the red tape and make it successful. And like I said, I would hang my hat on that $2.5 million we're putting into the workplace as a as a major skin in the game. And so yes, I'm very excited about doing it. We got to do it quickly because 2024 eligibility is probably, it's on a timeline. I don't know exact timeline, but we don't get this resolved, and to me, it's not going to take 6 or 9 months or 12 months. In 1 or 2 months, we're going to know. And so it's going to be a quick fix, one way or the other. We either strike out or we strike a home run.
Thank you for clarifying.
Just point of clarification, backing up what Wayne said. Our whole goal is to do this quickly in a concentrated fashion, to get some questions answered, and then get back to you with what we're hearing for the reasons Wayne was talking about, because the opportunity window, if we get good news, to participate in the 2024 process is open now through the end of March, when the paperwork needs to be started, pursued with partnership, pursued with the department. That's the rest of the agreement that we have here, is getting through the first hurdle, and then our regular services, IGT support services, The rest of the agreement is us doing the paperwork, doing the cost documentation, working with you hand in glove to get the paperwork into partnership, the paperwork into the state to get you into the 24 process. But first things first, find out the obstacles, find out what's there. To Malcolm's point, is it an issue or not? But get that identified. The only other thing I'll say is we would politely remind the department that there's at least one other district in the state that is operating with an operator agreement that is participating in the IGT program. And I would politely ask the department why they may be different.
Politely.
A very good question. A very good question.
You have a hand raised again online. Jeff
Yeah,
Moore.
if I can provide some context to this as well. This is a complicated maneuver. This is not something that's traditionally done. We are doing this in other markets as well. IGT funds are available in a number of different avenues, and we've engaged consultants as Adventist Health because we don't have the internal expertise because it is such a complicated maneuver. The second side of that would say, if from my CFO lens, I would say it's a cap at $30,000, which is great. So if you have $1 million opportunity and we have $30,000 that's capped on expense, that's at 3% at risk for the potential $1 million. So if I'm a betting man, that seems like a fairly decent bet, and it sounds like it's scalable. But again, if we can add any more context to it or support, we will.
Okay, and Jeff, I'll look forward to you helping me put some bets on some basketball games too. Okay, great. Director McGordy.
Are we ready for a motion?
Yes.
I'd like to move that we accept the proposal from HMA.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further comment from the board? Okay, a roll call?
Okay, where to start? Paul Katzif.
Yes.
Jan McGordy.
Yes.
Jan, I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay, Susan Savage, yes. Paul Garza.
Yes.
And Lee Finley. Lynn Finley.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm going to continue to do that. I apologize.
5 cent charge every time you get it.
Yeah, the jar.
Missing a page of my agenda. Okay, thank you very much. We're now on consent calendar.
Somebody's asking about public comment?
I'm sorry, what?
There's a request about, she's waving her hand right here.
No, the public comment was the period.
Point of
was on
order?
this particular item.
It's a point of order. You want me to say real quick? The agenda says 15,000, and you said 30,000. So what is it?
I'm sorry.
The
agenda
motion
says-
was to accept the contract as written. The contract as written is 30,000.
Yeah, didn't
So
catch
that, the
that.
staff recommendation was 15, the motion was 30, that's what the contract is. So you accepted the contract at 30,000, not to exceed 30,000.
Okay, consent calendar, we have a number of housekeeping items here. Is there anything that board members would like to pull? Okay, hearing none, is there any public comment on the consent calendar? Okay, then is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make that
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Okay, Director Finley, second?
Yes.
Okay, roll call?
Okay, Jan McGordy.
Yes.
Susan Savage, yes. Paul Garza.
Yes.
Lynn Finley.
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Katzif.
Yes.
Okay, it's approved.
We're now at a closed session.
Will we have public
Oh, wait,
comments?
comments from the board? From the board, excuse me. Okay, not hearing any? Okay, fine. We're now going to go to closed session. We're going to take a 5-minute recess so that we can make sure our attorney is present. But I would request that you remove, so we're going to be considering 2 items, Government Code 54956.8, conference with real property negotiators for the 700 River Drive, Fort Bragg, California. under negotiation, and the second is conference with real property negotiators, 721 River Drive, Fort Bragg, California. The district appointed an ad hoc committee and legal negotiating parties. Okay. So with that, we'll take just a brief recess, so we need to clear the room. And
Sorry, Chair, you need to take public comment before you can clear the room and enter closed session.
okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We didn't get a public
Excuse me.
comment. Is there public comment on? Thank you. Any public comment on the items that we're addressing?
In closed session.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to. Okay, let me call our meeting back to order. We're out of closed session, and we have a very brief report. The first item on the lease, we did not discuss. There was no additional business at this point. We anticipated some, but there isn't. On the second item, which has to do with the thrift store, it's our intent to identify a potential community partner who can run this thrift store. We're going to inform Adventist that we're going to take another 6 months to go through that process to see if we can do that. We believe that there's some value that this thrift store provides. We'd like to see it successful. Anyway, so that's where we are at this point. So with that, can we have a motion to adjourn?
You have public comments. So.
Oh, do we have public comment, final
Well,
public?
I don't know that public comments prior to entering into
Okay.
business.
Okay.
And you took comments from the board, the closing
Right.
comments already. I would just add that there's two things. We have potentially scheduled a workshop on February 17. I know it's a holiday, but that's to do the mission and vision statement for the board. And the next regular meeting is February 27 at 5 p.m. And tentatively, the planning meeting, the first planning committee meeting of this year will be next Monday, 3 or 4 o'clock. So I'll get that agenda out right away.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Who-
Second?
Did somebody, I'm sorry.
McGurty.
Okay, Jan moved?
Second?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Okay, Paul Katzif.
Yes.
And Jan McGorty.
Yes.
Susan Savage, yes. Paul Garza.
Yes.
And Lynn Finley.
Yes.
You know, I just talked to her. That's why I should have got her in my brain here. Sorry. My apologies. We are adjourned at
Okay, thank you. 7:38.